At exactly 3:03 a.m., I woke to the faint sound of whistling, slow, deliberate, and coming from somewhere inside the house. My phone buzzed with a single message. Don't look. The hair on my arms stood on end. I tried to will myself back to sleep, but the whistling grew louder, more insistent. It was definitely coming from outside my bedroom, but when I listened, it sounded like it was inside my head. My breath hitched in my throat. Was I having a heart attack? Was this the end? Was this how my life would end? Alone, scared, and with no answers? I remembered the dream I'd been having, the one that always came when he was near. A man in a black suit was always at the center of it, but his face was obscured by the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat. He'd reach out to me, his gloved hand beckoning, and then I'd wake up. This wasn't a nightmare. It was a warning. But a warning for what? I had moved into this old Victorian house 3 months ago, and ever since then, strange things had been happening. Heavy footsteps in the attic above my bedroom, whispers in the dead of night, and objects that seemed to move on their own. At first, I dismissed them as the house settling or the pipes expanding in the cold. But then the scratching started, slow and methodical, like someone or something dragging metal moans across the floorboards directly beneath my bed. I'd lie awake at night listening to it, sometimes feeling the vibrations in my bones as much as my ears. Then came the dreams, always the same, always the man in the black suit, always the feeling of impending doom. And then the messages, cryptic and menacing, scrawled on pieces of paper and slid under my door in the middle of the night. Leave, they'd say, or you're not alone. Sometimes they'd simply contain a single word, run. One morning, I found a book lying on my desk. Its pages were filled with arcane symbols and disturbing illustrations. I didn't recognize the language, but I didn't need to. The meaning was clear from the pictures, rituals, sacrifices, and a creature with many eyes and mouths. I recognized it from one of my dreams. The creature had loomed over me, its presence crushing all hope of escape. I knew then that whatever was in that book was somehow linked to it. The messages continued, growing bolder. He's coming, they'd warn, or there's no escape. Fear became my constant companion. I barricaded myself in my room at night, too terrified to venture out into the dark halls of the house. Then the whistling started. I knew that song. It was the same one I'd heard in my dreams. It meant he was here. I tried to make myself go back to sleep, but the whistling grew louder, circling my bed like a predator stalking its prey. Suddenly it stopped. A single drop of sweat trickled down my temple. What was happening? Was it finished? Then I heard a knock at the door, slow, deliberate, and echoing in the stillness of the night. It came again, louder this time, followed by a voice. Open the door. Let me in. I recognized the voice. It was my own, but distorted, as if coming from beyond the grave. My blood ran cold. How could this be? Had it come for me? As the knocking continued, I felt a presence at the door, something dark and heavy pressing against it. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My eyes were wide with terror as I watched the doorknob slowly turn. With a creak, the door opened, revealing only darkness. That's when I saw it. Hanging from my closet, the air around it shimmering, was a form as black as pitch. It shifted and coalesced into a humanoid shape, tall and emaciated, with limbs that were too long and thin. Its head was grotesquely distorted, with features that seemed to shift and change. In its hand, it held a silver whistle, the same one I'd heard. In the dreams, the messages, the warnings, I wanted to look away, but I couldn't tear my gaze from the horrifying spectacle before me. As the figure advanced, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread and despair. It reached out to me, its fingers like hooks, and I knew there was no escaping my fate. At that moment, everything went black,